Joining us now for World Brief and review of some headlines of today's stories from around the world is Adefemi Akinsoya. Femi, great to have you. How are you?
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you
Always
doing?
great to see you brighten our sets
Ayo.
every morning.
I'm so happy. Always happy to be in you guys' presence. All righty, let me tell you what is happening around the world. Now, Philippine police have arrested former President Rodrigo Duterte after the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant accusing him of crimes against humanity over his deadly war on drugs. Duterte was arrested by police in Manila airport shortly after his arrival from Hong Kong, where he had actually been campaigning for his senatorial state in this upcoming May 12th midterm election. Now, his brutal anti-drugs crackdown, which occurred when he was president of the Southeast Asian nation from 2016 to 2022, saw thousands of people killed. He's 79 years old now, and he had earlier said that he was ready to go to prison when responding to reports of his possible arrest. Now, there has been some condemnation of his capture over this arrest, calling it unlawful because the Philippines has actually withdrawn from the ICC. But the ICC had earlier said that it does have the jurisdiction in the Philippines over alleged crimes committed before the country withdrew as a member. So Rodrigo Duterte remains in police custody. And then moving on to the United States, U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has directed the Food and Drug Administration Agency, the American equivalent of NAFTA essentially, to revise safety rules to help eliminate a provision that allows companies to self-affirm that food ingredients are safe. Now, under these changes, transparency for consumers, as well as the FDA's oversight of food ingredients considered to be safe, would actually increase. Currently, the FDA strongly encourages manufacturers to submit notices under a rule known as substances generally recognized as safe, but they can also self-affirm the use of a substance without notifying the FDA. Now, eliminating this pathway would make it mandatory for companies that want to introduce new ingredients in foods to publicly notify the FDA of their intended use and submit underlying safety data. Now, the likes of PepsiCo, General Mills, Kraft, Heinz, Hershey's, and other food companies are likely to be affected by this move, and they're as yet have not made any real public response. Now, both of these stories are very interesting. I mean, as all of the stories are on the World Brief. But I think this morning, when we're looking at RFK, because, I mean, I like the World Brief because we speak quite critically of everybody. We're equal opportunity criticizers here. But I do think it was quite interesting and quite a, can you say, commendable move from RFK to make this move when it comes to food safety. And I do think that many countries, Nigeria included, could take a leaf out of this book. United States has great things, but I do think that sometimes their food isn't one of them. Can be quite healthy, poisonous to some extent. So it's quite interesting to see RFK take this stand when it comes to food safety in the United States.
That had always been his. In fact, before he was appointed, one of his key points was his war against, or his campaign for food safety and healthier, make America healthy again, MAHA. And so this comes as no surprise. But you're absolutely correct. Only this morning I was looking at, there are people who actually take it upon themselves to tell you the ingredients in the food that you consume, particularly that's American made, and some of these fast food chains. And so it's important, and that's why we see so many health diseases and illnesses, including obesity, child obesity, heart-related, diseases that plague America. Now, of course, the system is going to fight back, and so I don't know to what extent. I mean, that's a good thing about Trump. I have to say that, whereby his policies, whether good or bad, he stands by them, and where they are workable, like in this instance, then it becomes a positivity or a positive point for the Americans. And then don't forget that because of how America's food gets into the hands of people around the world, it's not just a policy that would affect America, but also a policy that affects us all around the world. I remember when the UK was big on this as well, especially targeting sugar. And they had a massive campaign around 5 a day. That's why you had to eat 5 a day, fruits and veggies. And then that was when they introduced where you had to put on your carton on the food the quantity of fats, the quantity of sugar that was in your food, and it was all in a bid to crack down on unhealthy eating, and that has helped a massive deal. So it forced people, because if your food is red, that's the color coded. So red, yellow, green, yellow, depending on how the intensity or how bad the sugar levels are, you will then know to reduce so that people will be attracted to buy your product. Because at a point, at least as a shopper myself, the first thing I look at on a pack is what are the color codes. So maybe America will get to that. I think they said doing it as well, but not as big as the UK. And you would see that if you taste the same product from America and the UK, vastly different. The quantity also, for that one, I'm all in support of that. Now, going to Duterte, it's very interesting because his anti-drug war started because he had said that Philippines was turning into a narco economy, whereby drug was, the war on drugs was necessary. However, he's been criticized even before now for the way he handled it. On record, the police say 6,000 people were killed, but they're saying unofficially probably more. Yes. And what's even more worrying was that at the time there were these extrajudicial killings. Correct. Many young boys, poor people who didn't have an opportunity for fair trial were targeted and killed. And so the unfortunate thing about this is when you launch out a war like that, which some people have said that it should be emulated in other South American countries, but now you can see that there are flaws to it, is that you don't give people a fair hearing. It's extrajudicial killings and there'll be collateral damage. And sometimes the collateral damage is worse than the people that you actually target. So he has to answer at the ICC. Let's see how that plays out.
I mean, as regards American food, spot on RFK. So I am not some idiot that when RFK does something good, I will not praise him.
Yes.
When he does something bad, I'll condemn him. I will never agree with him on those vaccines, but on this, I'll praise him. Because I have a personal story. I hardly go to America. The last time I went to America was 2018. Afterwards,
your last trip, yes.
Before my last trip. Yes. So that was like many years ago. 7 years ago. 7 years ago. And I went to America. In about 2 weeks, I gained 7 kg. I came back feeling like hell. I went to see a game, Dallas Stars, NFL, NHL game, National Hockey League game. Yes. And I remember I ordered salad, and the cream and the, unhealthy things on the salad was so annoying. And I felt bloated after. In fact, I just came back and said, you know what, I want a detox. That's how America is. What is he saying? He's saying that these companies will not have a right, like they've had before, to be able to say, okay, this is safety standard in food, that they have to send all the materials, all the tests and all the lab results to them for the FDA to be able to verify. That's totally spot on. This is the land of chlorinated chicken. That's America for you. So if he's trying to improve the food standards, which in turn has a knock-on effect on your health, it's very good. But as regards vaccines, I will never agree with him because he's beginning to see the effect of not giving out those vaccines in the measles upsurge in America. Yes. As regards Eduardo Duterte, his anti-narco war began 2016 to about 2022. He wanted to prove a point. Yes, it was popular, and that's why we should be careful about populist agenda. It was popular among the Filipinos, Filipinos then, because they were really excited that, it's clearing out all this drug cartel. But people were getting killed. The Filipino authority did say it was about 6,000. But ICC, based on his research, said the number could be 10 to 30,000 people that were killed with recourse to nothing. And he went one step further because he knew this was going to come. He deliberately pulled out the Philippines from the ICC in 2018. Thinking it was going to save him from today. And that's why when he was arrested, he said the arrest was illegal at the Manila airport because the Philippines is no longer at the ICC. So it just shows you that whatever you do, you must account for it. But there are some countries, like I know, in this part of the world, that people don't account for their past activities. So he will face the ICC. We will see how that pans out. And probably he'll be one of the leaders. It goes in a long list of leaders, like Reverend Karadzic and a couple of other leaders have had to face the ICC at some point. Yes. So let's see how this pans out, because he must account for the lives that were lost because it was under his watch.
Absolutely.
Do you know it's a very tricky situation, Rufai? Because some people also call for death penalty for corruption, for crimes. This is it. So, but this is the side effect of that. Yeah. When you be careful what you wish for. We can ask, let's do away with everyone, but usually what happens is that there's collateral damages.
Definitely.
And it's too expensive usually.
I mean, the pictures were gory.
Yes,
the pictures were cute.
literal bodies in the
and
streets,
it was so sad.
just like that. So I'm really, really happy we got to hear your thoughts on this. And Rufai, thank you for sharing that when it comes to your experience with food. You know, we speak very candidly about our journeys, our weight loss journeys, and how food plays a role in that. You guys know I spent a year at Harvard, and understanding just the access to food is completely different. You can say that you're going to go to the supermarket and cook all of your food, but sometimes the food available to you at the supermarkets aren't actually healthy as a default. So thank you very much for sharing that. Let's move on now to newspaper headlines across the globe. We begin here in Nigeria with This Day. This Day leads with comments from the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, who says that the federal government has adhered to the legal borrowing limit of 5% from the Central Bank of Nigeria, despite challenges in the domestic and international economic environment. Now, he spoke at the 2025 KPMG Arise News Budget Program, which was an excellent production, if I have to say. And he says that Nigerians are already appreciating the gains of key reforms so far implemented by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration. Let's move on to the New Telegraph, which leads with the shocking but perhaps not surprising news that Nasir El-Rufai has left the FPC and joined the SDP in his move to lead the opposition. Now, The Punch also picks up on this story, in addition to the Daily Sun, both of those papers looking at the story from the perspective of what the presidency and the APC have to say in response. Now, both accuse El-Rufai of being driven by an inordinate ambition that is destined to fail, they say, in his defection to the Social Democratic Party. Now, the APC also say that El-Rufai's plan to mobilize against Tinubu's re-election in 2027 would not produce any significant outcomes. Now, The Guardian, however, leads with a breakdown on how much internet data consumers are using. Their headline says consumers are groaning as data depletion, exploitation complicate telecoms, the telco's tariff hike. And I think many people can relate to that. Now, the UK if we look at The Guardian of the UK, it's actually featured this explosion in the North Sea, which took place yesterday afternoon. And this explosion in the North Sea happened after an oil tanker and a cargo ship collided. In addition to that, there's also criticism of the benefit system in the United Kingdom. Prime Minister Keir Starmer says that essentially steep cuts are coming when it comes to disability payments because the number of jobless people on benefits is indefensible. And this is, of course, despite the fact that he's been criticised for making these types of cuts to the social welfare programs in the United Kingdom. Those are your papers.
And that's... Okay, and that's why we're, sounding this note of warning as regards Trump and this cuts, and you can see what's panning out in England. And that's why we should be careful. And anyway, for those that care to listen, the truth has always been, Trump is making those cuts from USAID and a couple of other, platforms, Medicaid and all of that, because he wants tax cuts for the rich. And the truth is, it has to be said, this tax cuts for the rich he wants is only going to benefit his friends and his major campaign donor like Elon Musk.
Yes.
And it's about their world, not any other world.
This is it.
So if we do not look at that critically, it's going to be a problem. You cannot say you want to cut off the middle class, cut off people's jobs, because you want a tax cut for the rich.
Yes.
And we have a story here that's talking about exploring critical partnerships, U.S. exploring critical partnership, with the DRC, as regards minerals and all of that. All of this is as the M23 saga is going on.
Yes.
It's a potpourri of problems. But I'm a little bit taken aback, by that. I mean, I'm not surprised because America started making incursions into these areas. You remember they talk about the Lobito corridor recently.
Yes, when Biden went to Angola.
And the train lines that wanted to be built. The reason that train line was supposed to be built is to be able to cut into parts of the DRC and be able to get minerals out. In the end, it's only about exploitation for these people. They want to come and take out of Africa's mineral resource. Nobody gives back. And the problem is our leaders in all of this, I'm going to the El-Rufai story now, do not even introspect and think deeply. Somebody has moved from PDP to CPC to APC to SDP. There's a P in everything. Do you know what that P means? Power.
Oh.
Personality, personal interest. It's about me alone. And that's why I was talking to a top politician yesterday. I was saying the way these people are going with this, their so-called coalition they're going to do, it might fail, and they will give President Tinubu an easy chance to return in 2027 if care is not taken. Because all of them want to be presidents. Nobody wants to step down for each other. No matter the party they move to, it's about their own personal ambition. So I asked them today, where is the role of Nigeria and the love for country in your hearts? All of them blame Tinubu for Emilokan. All of them too are doing our lokan.
All right, so Congo, in this this dispute, let me put it that way, with Rwanda, have now gone to the big brother for support. And who is this big brother? The United States of America. Will they bite? Absolutely. I mean, Trump is going fishing for minerals in Ukraine. So when he's presented with such an opportunity, we've talked about the unfairness. You know, there've been analysis around what's going on with M23, Rwanda backing it, and all of this around control for resources, control for minerals. And now Congo has taken the bulls by the horn, and there was a delegation that went to Washington to seek the support of America. Now, fortunately, when it comes to investment in minerals or even a mining company in Congo, America doesn't have such a presence. So this is just the beginning of the conversation, but I think it's going to progress quite fast, especially because what they're asking for in return is for support, regional support. And when we talk about the unfairness that's happening in Congo, you can quite understand, and people might not, blink too much at this. But then we talk about the implications, and that's what we keep saying, that I hope that when we go to negotiate with foreign powers, especially powers that are bigger than us, especially, for African countries, we go in with Africa first, Congo first, and their interests first, and not out of desperation where America takes advantage of them. And that's where the conversation is around, okay, they've gone to help.
They will take advantage of it.
They will. So, I just don't want to say, they will.
They will take advantage of
that's why I'm calling that. It seems good because then they'll get the protection they need, hopefully, to now be a proxy war between superpowers. So who has the most influence and who has the most interest or things to protect. But I just think that there has to be also a note of caution with this. It sounds like a great idea, but it seems like, they finally found, found a solution to this. But I'm also very careful around deals entered in, especially when you're in a vulnerable position with a superpower like the United States of America, not to put themselves even into a worse situation than where they currently are. But I think Rwanda will sit up now, and the bullying that's occurred in the last few days. Well, let me very quickly touch on El-Rufai before we go on SDP. I'm quite interested. It's interesting because do you remember Adewale Adebayo, who was the presidential candidate of the SDP? We call that towards the elections, end of the election cycle, he withdrew and asked his supporters to support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the time. Do you remember?
Yes.
Yeah. And so at that time, we were thinking, okay, well, had he been working for the president all the while? And that's why there were conversations around this El-Rufai thing. Let's dig deeper into it.
Where's it coming from?
The choice of his party is quite interesting because this is the same party that supported the president at a while, even though afterwards he's come out to criticize the policies of the president. But it's also something to think about. But he's saying that, and then they're saying that let's look at other principal APC members who might actually defect. Mr. Fayemi came out quickly to say, Dr. Kairi Fayemi said, I'm not defecting, I'm an APC member. But now all eyes are on that big coalition. What is going to happen with that? For me, if we're talking about the northern votes, this move by El-Rufai might dilute the northern votes for the opposition. That's in my own estimation, because that's the same thing that happened during the 2022 elections, whereby they had said that if a coalition between Peter Obi and Atiku had worked, perhaps they'd have had a better outcome at the elections. And so it was actually more in favor of the APC. So a number of things to look at, because if you're going away, Atiku too is also depending, or would also want to get the northern votes as well as votes around Nigeria. El-Rufai, if he enters the ring, will also dilute those votes. So who comes out as winner?
Perhaps. All righty. Now, we have already touched on this in terms of our discussion, but just to set the scene and let you understand what we're talking about, rebels have continued to seize territory in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, advancing towards another mineral-rich area. Now, the United Nations reports that hundreds of thousands of displaced families in North Kivu province urgently need assistance. Meanwhile, the United States, as we've been discussing, has been holding exploratory talks with the DRC about a deal granting access to critical minerals in exchange for military support. Now, the DRC has offered exclusive access to its minerals and infrastructure projects, seeking security assistance to combat the M23 rebellion. Over the weekend, the DRC requested an urgent meeting between President Felix Tshisekedi and US President Donald Trump. So just to reiterate the situation that we're seeing here when it comes to international relations, they're literally saying, okay, if it's to stop Rwanda from taking these minerals, we're happy for you to have it. What is happening here?
All right.
Goodness
I mean,
gracious.
I think Trump will bite.
And don't forget, it's deeper on the surface than what you see. The same America that came in with the CIA to disrupt
This
Congo,
same country.
the same America.
Some people would even argue that they could be responsible for the assassination of Patrice Lumumba.
The same America that
Correct.
came in, that disrupted the ecosystem. The same America that were parts of those that trained the leader of Rwanda as we speak today.
Yes.
So it's deeper than what you think. And you see, when you hear the M23 rebel group, it's not one rebel group.
No, it's not. It's a
There are
coalition.
many of them put together. It's a basket case in Goma. When you go to the highlands of Goma where those minerals are, it's a basket case. Happy enjoyment. Let's see. Maybe they will put boots on the ground, or they will fight proxy warfare, or they will bribe the other rebel groups, or they will put in M16 guns and Russian Kalashnikov, which is already dominating the area today. Let's see how all of this pans out. It's just another scramble for Africa, and it's sad for this continent.
This time it's not even a scramble for Africa. It's Africa going there, with,
Come
and take
it.
It's sad.
on unfettered access. That's worrying.
Yeah.
But let's see how this plays out. Thank you so much,
Always a pleasure.
Adefemi. Always great to see you.